and welcome to Dispel Magic, the podcast where we overthink how the magic of D&D might shape your campaign in surprising and unexpected ways. I'm Benjamin, game designer and writer. You can find me on the internet at sterlingvermin.com or Twitter at sterlingvermin.
And my name's Dane. I'm a Dungeon Master, podcaster, and voice actor, and you can find me online at Dane in Danger. Sometimes it's nice to just think back to past memories.
The memories of the past.
Yeah.
Those days long gone by.
Halcyon days.
Where many spells were discussed. Creatures were talked about. And lives were changed.
For the better.
For the better.
It's a recap episode.
Welcome to the half-season review. We're going to go back through, talk a little bit about anything that the audience has brought up regarding some of these episodes we've released this season. And we also, in the Demiplane episode, came up with the idea of taglines for spells. So as we review each spell, we'll also pitch new taglines. And in the future, I'd like to run some Twitter polls. So if you're on Twitter, please follow Dispel Magic Pod and vote in those polls so we can see which tagline is the best per spell.
With the taglines, I thought it would be hilarious to draw up actual like magazine ads for the spells with the taglines included. That'd be a fun thing to see in the world.
Yeah. So
if anyone wants to do that, go for it.
Oh, all right. Didn't realize that was.
I could give it a try. I can draw her.
Yeah, you're a drawer.
I could draw her sometimes.
We're going to start with create or destroy water. A more fun episode than it had any right to be, given the topic of it.
We really plumbed the depths.
Yeah.
I got a lot of comments talking about how if you, Benjamin, as a person, got real power, they'd be afraid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Creating a desert cult out of water.
I think it would be very hard for me not to become authoritarian if I was given any amount of power.
Real power.
Yeah. But I also like to think I'd be a benevolent dictator. So,
well, that's positive.
Yeah. It'd be a fun desert cult. The fun would be mandatory.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Go down the slide.
It's not have fun. It's have fun. I'm not going to say it again.
I don't need to.
Go down the water slide. I spent a first level spell slot on that. Okay?
A couple times today.
Yeah.
Couple times.
I'm sick of casting.
Enjoy it.
On Twitter, Sidekicks and SideQuest mentioned that if you have some powdered silver laying around, you can make holy water, which, generally speaking, I don't think the spell makes creating holy water any easier. Mm-hmm. But it does mean that if you've got powdered silver or access to silver, if you find yourself in a dungeon randomly that's got undead or fighting undead when you didn't expect to be, you could kind of on the fly create some. So it would be useful in that circumstance.
There you go.
One thing that was funny to me is that we talked a lot about on this episode about how you could create your own kind of desert cult really easily because you could go into places that are inhospitable because of a lack of water, produce a lot of water, and kind of make your own society where it otherwise wouldn't be able to exist. And so we talked about that a lot with this spell. And then we did Demiplane several episodes later, and that is like this times a million. Because we talked about like just emptying a lake and putting it somewhere.
Flooding a castle.
So even the one cool thing that Create or Destroy Water lets you do is done better by another spell. So that's cool.
So that's good to know.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's get to the taglines.
Yeah.
So you want to go back and forth?
Sure. Let's go back and forth.
You go first.
Okay. Let's get wet. Or dry.
It's either or. I got what's a vessel really? Could it be a human body? Could it be a human body?
Get wet or dry trying.
I like the puns. I didn't do any I don't think I did any puns. It's not the amount. It's how long you use it.
I don't think I get that one.
No?
H2 go or H2 no.
Right there on the label. Create or destroy.
Your very own desert cult. Just add water.
Ding! I mean, the ads write themselves.
Sure. Yeah. For next time we need a little intermission. Next up is Enlarge Reduce. I want to say right off the bat that I'm the one who runs the Twitter account, and I've been very disappointed in our audience this season, because every time we've disagreed about something, they've sided with Dane, which is clearly wrong. In this episode, we talked about whether or not a dead tooth was an object, and I said no, and Dane said yes. And for some reason, most of you agreed with Dane, which is disgusting. Not so much that you agreed with Dane, but the idea that then in a fight, if you were fighting somebody with a dead tooth, you could reach over and grab their face and enlarge their dead tooth so that it's the size, goes from being a tiny object to a small one, and just fills your mouth with rotten, decaying tooth. So I just want to.
That's truly awful.
If you're grossed out by that, I just want all of you to know that that's what you did to me on Twitter. That's on you.
It's your fault.
That's a your fault thing.
Yeah. And also dentists. Make them tiny, take them right out. Painless.
Right. You could do that too.
You could. That's great.
Anything that you heard about Enlarge Reduce?
Yeah. Another friend of mine was saying that if momentum was conserved on a shrunk object that then became big while flying through the air, then would it be a massive murder missile, is the way he put it. So I think yes.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is shrinking really big, like siege weapons, basically, firing them from a much simpler mechanism or device.
And it could make it go faster as well.
Right. And then it expands either on impact or midair, and
devastation.
Yeah, creating additional destruction. And it seems like that would be a yes.
That'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
All right. You got a tagline for this one?
Yeah, I got a few. The Biggie Smalls spell.
We read all of these to each other before. That one might be my favorite one.
That's a pretty good one.
I've got nothing smaller than tiny.
No problem too big or too small.
Not in small rooms. Just don't do it. It's more of a cautionary tale than anything else.
Right. Honey, I shrunk the gnomes.
I just have, guess what this does? It's sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's more, yeah.
Go big or go small. That about rounds it out.
Yeah, that's about good.
That does it. For the middle of the season, we took a break from spells, and we talked about everyone's favorite mushroom folk, Myconids.
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 Myconids. Myconids.
Never thought about that.
I say Myconids.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's wrong, but I've just always pronounced it Myconids.
Interesting.
But that was like that's like one of those things where when you start doing it as a child,
right,
it carries through even when like you might realize later it doesn't really make any sense. Like at one point I thought Abraham Lincoln and Uncle Sam were the same person.
I could see that one. That's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy one-to-one comparison.
Yeah.
I think another Twitter polls in order for that one.
Whether or not Abraham Lincoln and Uncle Sam are the same person?
Myconids or Myconids.
Okay, yeah, well, yes. That would make more sense for a Twitter poll.
I mean, if you wanna put it out there and see who agrees with you about Uncle Sam and Abe Lincoln.
Well, I don't believe that anymore or think that anymore. Just for some reason it just made sense.
I'd be interested to
Hadn't
see
questioned
who,
it. I didn't
who
even
does.
I didn't even think that they might not be the same person. It had not occurred to me that
just
they might not
knew
be.
they were.
Right.
Picked it up somewhere. Myconids really opened my eyes to their possibilities that episode.
Mm-hmm. I did a little bit of reflecting, and actually you brought up some interactions that Myconids have with other spells too, but I was thinking back on the Myconid episode and a spell we did last season, which was Detect Poison and Disease, and it did come up in either in that episode or in the review that we did, that you could detect any creature that naturally produces a poison, you'd be able to sense.
Right.
And so with Detect Poison Disease, you would always know if a Myconid was within a certain range of you, because in addition to it telling you that there's a poison within a certain range, you also know precisely what that poison is. And so in this case, once you knew that that's the poison that myconids produce, you would know exactly where myconids were while you were around.
Communication spores.
Right, lots of all their
hallucination ones.
spores.
Yeah, that'd be. Who needs a truffle hunter when you've
That's right.
when you've got that spell?
Yeah.
See you later, trained pigs, awakened pigs, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say awaken? Did I say? Who said awaken?
You.
That's so weird. Because I was reflecting too on myconids and the idea of mycelium, which trees often trees use mycelium from fungus to communicate, share nutrients, all sorts of really interesting things. So if you had a myconid mycelium under a grove of awakened trees,
you got a stew going.
You got a stew going, baby.
Yeah.
No, the interactions would be really interesting. I think that making a drug cult in that situation would be a lot harder because the trees essentially would be the sentinels for this. I could see the trees...
you mean like exploiting myconids would be harder in that circumstance, yeah. I don't necessarily think every version of a myconid drug cult has to be exploitation.
True.
But yeah.
Well, and then that led to... We were talking about, well, maybe that's how myconids started.
Right. That somebody cast Awaken on a mushroom, and that got out of hand and led to myconids, which in that conversation that we were having, that led me to think of how asexual reproduction works and creatures just kind of cloning themselves and splitting off. And, Awaken doesn't say anything about being hereditary, so there's no reason for us to think that in a normal... or not normal, but creatures who reproduce sexually do not pass along their awakened intelligence, or at least the spell doesn't clarify that that's true. But
if you're cloning yourself,
if you're cloning yourself, if you're reproducing asexually, which a lot of mushrooms do, and there's various other animals that do this,
like starfish,
hammerhead sharks. Apparently, I don't know if they always do, but they can.
They can.
Then it seems like awakened really clearly would carry over because it's a permanent change to the so I like it as a potential origin story for myconids, just to tie it back into what we're talking about. But we also were kind of thinking about how in the Awakened episode we talked about how an island nation or a port city might awaken some sea creatures to use as kind of like fight against piracy and other things, control the waters. In this case, if you cast it on something that reproduced asexually, like starfish, and then that starfish reproduced and then kept on reproducing, you'd have eventually an entire society of intelligent starfish being real creepy underwater. And starfish don't scare me, but the idea of an intelligent army of starfish is really horrifying to me.
And that made me think of coral. If coral was awakened.
Although, what would coral do?
I think that they'd be able to build some pretty interesting structures out of them, their own bodies.
Wow, that's true, actually. Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. Coral castles.
Coral castles. If you made friends with them, or... I mean, they wouldn't really have a reason to besides, organizing themselves in a way that behooves them, right?
Right.
So... fortresses of coral, and then
right. Well, I mean, I can imagine a Triton druid might awaken coral to form a big barrier around their underwater grove or something.
Pretty fun stuff there.
Yeah.
But those those starfish. That's Woof.
Worse than psychic mushrooms for sure.
Definitely. What are some of your taglines?
Everyone's a fungi.
I just got chill as fuck.
Okay.
Myconids, chill as fuck. Got an explicit tag on this one.
Yeah, better. And my other one is heart rich, mind spore.
That one took me a couple times. Say it one more time.
Heart rich, mind spore.
That's great. I got you'll never want to leave. Because it's great.
Yeah, it's true. It is great. I would live with a Myconid colony.
Yeah. Just chill out, hang
not now
out.
because I have kids, but
Bring the kids.
no, that's weird. that is weird.
Raise them to be peace-loving, enlightenment-seeking.
Well, yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, but I don't think we should share minds.
Sure. That's probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My last one is my celium, your celium, our celium.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's like a science fiction corporation that's like managed to to somehow commodify mushrooms. That would be
Myconids in space.
yeah.
Myconids. Hello, friends. Dane here saying thank you for listening and sharing our show. Telling other people about Dispel Magic is the best way for us to grow, along with you rating and reviewing our show on whatever podcast app you use. We've also revamped our Patreon. Benjamin is writing monthly spells. There's a behind-the-screen show where we talk about our home games, along with other little extras we'll be sprinkling in here or there. So, if you like the show, please tell a friend, rate and review, and check out our Patreon. Thanks again for listening, and happy spelling.
Tensor's floating disk.
Hey, a favorite.
Yeah. So this was the other situation in which I found that the audience really turned against me personally, and
that didn't really pan out the way you thought, huh?
and voted that most of them thought Tensor's floating disk was invisible, which
It is.
yeah,
It can be.
there were some really funny ones. I did like somebody suggested smoke roiling in an invisible container.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a great visual.
Somebody else mentioned the idea of it being a 90s era poorly 3D rendered chrome disc, which I also really like.
Like
something
from Reboot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, like something from Reboot.
Bob flying around on you can't fly around on it, but yeah.
I will say I was very pleased that a ROM from Kill Every Monster came in to my rescue and agreed with me that it was yellow, because I kind of feel like in this situation, maybe the expertise matters more than the fact that more people think that, and I would say
Just because he's got a better produced and more listened to podcast doesn't mean he's right about the disc. Shout out to Kill Every Monster. It's a great podcast.
I think it does. In this limited instance.
Okay.
If he ever disagrees with me, I'll feel differently.
Right,
but
sure.
To the extent where Aram and I agree about things, he's absolutely right. In that same conversation about, also in that Twitter conversation about what color the Tensor's floating disk was, I came up with the idea that it would be really funny if there was a merchant in town that sold pogs to wizards that they could use as part of the material component of casting the spell, and then their Tensor's floating disc just was skinned like however that pog looked. I like it because it's very dumb.
It is very dumb.
The idea that wizards are buy little collectibles
right
to put some aesthetic on their disc is hilarious.
I feel like there could be a very fun wizard game.
Sure, yeah.
Where they're trying to knock things off of each other's Tensor's floating disc. Like they're just running around.
Just massive pogs?
Well...
Or like a Jenga type thing.
Maybe a Jenga type thing where it's just wizards running around in a field with a floating...
Oh, almost like jousting, maybe?
Maybe like jousting.
Yes.
With their Tensor's floating discs.
Hilarious.
And they're just running as fast as they can. And there are all these academics out there in a grass field, just super winded, but trying to best each other at Tensor Tag or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's really good.
I mean, the knocking something over on each other's disc would be great.
Oh yeah, no, I think that would be the game. Is that you have your Tensor's floating disc, and maybe there's some kind of barrier on top of the disc that functions like a net or a basket, and then it's just about who can eliminate the other person's tensor floating disc first by throwing enough weight into it that it disappears.
And then you're doing it, reduce and enlarge to try and
Yeah.
make bigger things get in there.
Yeah. So I guess there'd be there'd be teams, and only one person would be saddled with having to cast
The
Tensor's
disc.
floating disc.
And everybody else is trying to get it
Everybody,
into it.
yeah. So that person's being kind of defensive and like running away, and everybody else on the team is either joining in the defense of their own goal or attempting to weigh down the other Tensor's floating disc.
So we got two different games. We've got the Joust, Tensor Tag.
Yeah.
Or, what would you call weighing? Break the disc. It'd
yeah.
probably be called Break the Disc.
Yeah. And then the players would be called breakers.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a great game.
This is a great game, actually. I kind of want to think about it more.
How to formalize that a little bit. I had a friend of mine, same guy, talking about how if you put a pillowcase over the disc, you could cast Demiplane on the disc so that you could have your traveling doorway.
Because it's a surface.
Yeah, it becomes a surface at that point.
Well, I would think the disc itself is a surface, but
it's
if you
force, right? It says solid surface.
Yeah. Well, force was
Okay.
because you can sit on it, you can throw stuff on it. I don't know in what way it wouldn't be a surface, even if it is yellow.
You said that with such disdain.
You
wrinkled your nose, and you had.
I said it with conviction.
You showed.
That might be what conviction looks like. You might not know what conviction looks like.
You bared all of your teeth when you said it. I could see every tooth in your head.
Yeah,
when you said
even
it.
the ones in the back.
In the way back.
Yeah. No, what happened to my lips when I said that? It was inhuman. It was inhuman.
Reduced them.
Yeah.
Are lips objects?
No, lips are not objects, and I'm not even going to do a Twitter poll about that because I'll get mad.
Okay.
Tagline time.
Tagline time.
Do you have any taglines for Tensor's floating disc?
Yeah, I got some. Are you kidding me? I got some. My first one? Sure, it's fine. Tensor's floating disc.
That's a very good one. I only had one for this. It's Aren't you glad we said disc?
I am.
Yeah.
I also got just above dragging. And also useful for some. But I think my favorite is sure, it's fine.
Yeah, sure, it's fine.
Sure.
It's pretty good.
That's fine. That's more in the spirit of the Demiplane
Yeah.
taglines that we had.
It could work for that one too. Speaking of Demiplane,
oh yeah,
that was our most recent episode prior to the ad episode, and that one was fun. That was where we came up with the tagline idea. Although we've come up with some more taglines for that. An interesting comment I got from Alex from a couple of characters podcast mentioned that one of the things we talked about is the potential downfall or thing to worry about when you cast Demiplane is that it only stays open for an hour. So if you're using it to transport goods, which is primarily what we were spending our time talking about, you could easily lose somebody in there, or somebody could be a spy for the Thieves Guild who was just taking inventory of what was in there so they could come back and steal stuff. You could circumvent that by using the spell Animate Dead to just have all of this work of moving things around being done by zombies and skeletons.
Presto changeo.
And if you're high enough level to cast Demiplane, you
can do a couple skeletons.
Yeah, you're easily capable of keeping a few skeletons and zombies around. What about you, Dane?
Yeah, so if I was thinking about it and talking to a friend, same friend, and if you had two wizards who both knew Demiplane connected to the same room, you pretty much made yourself a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cast it, say, one of them at the bottom of a lake, and then the other one anywhere you want, you've got an hour of lake.
Yeah.
Just rushing right through.
Right.
So that's some devastation.
Yeah, you could probably seriously ruin like a city.
You could ruin a city. You could definitely flood a castle. You could.
I guess you could do both at the same time.
You can do
It's a castle
from the
city,
castle.
Ruin their lake.
Yeah, you don't even need to fill the room
time.
anymore if you've got another person.
Yeah.
You just and you could do that with anything flowing, right? So
right,
lava.
like bottom of Scrooge McDuck's vault.
Right. All those coins.
Just a coin rain. Now that's a golden shower.
Gross.
It's only gross if you make it gross.
I did. I made it gross.
If you choose to read it as gross, it's gross, and that's on you.
Not my fault for saying it.
Yeah.
Did you come up with any more taglines?
I did, yeah. Because those ones we came up were on the spot.
Right.
Demiplane, semi-useful.
Demiplane. It's what you make of it.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
This one is just kind of instructive. Room, the spell.
I love that one. The final one I got is don't tell the in-laws. Just shut them away because, you know, when they come over, like, here's the guest room.
Oh, okay.
And then they're gone forever.
Oh, so like it's about murdering your in-laws?
Yeah. You
That's
know,
weird.
Like the 90s when in-laws were so much great to bag on.
Yeah, well, that was 30 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Oh.
I really regret that has made its way onto our show.
What was your favorite one from this last group?
That's a tricky one to answer because I found something I really liked. The first season was a lot of low-hanging fruit. It was the spells that got me thinking about doing this show in the first place.
This one you had to dig deep.
Yeah, this one I did more digging. And so I would say maybe Demiplane, just because I really hate that spell. It's Room, the spell, is very accurate. It's just creates a room, and that, to me, felt very boring for an 8th level spell. But I feel like we figured out a way for it to actually feel like feel as epic as where it sits in D&D.
Well, and at that point, you can hire another wizard or you're friends with another wizard at that point, where you could pull those kind of shenanigans that are really fun.
Yeah.
In that way.
What about you, Dane? What was your favorite episode?
I really liked Myconids. I really liked learning about the fun-loving, laid-back folks of the underground. Made me think of a bunch of different story hooks I could use and situations where they'd be a lot of fun. Like, what if a pirate ship just got taken over by Myconids and it's just floating around? I don't know. Myconid pirates. That sounds great. Just a floating.
But they're peaceful folk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they're like dressed like pirates.
Oh, okay. Or they're dressed like pirates. They're not actually committing piracy.
No way. Unless you could count like stealing your worries away.
Oh, yeah.
Like robbing you of your stress.
Right. Okay. Well, I like that.
Real swashbuckling mushrooms.
Okay. You sold me.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For your honest and sincere answer to my question. We've got the second half of the season cooking in the kitchen and coming to you starting next week with Arcane Lock. So look forward to that.
If you'd like to let us know any other things that you thought of, you can follow us on Twitter at Dispel Magic Pod.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you again after your next long rest.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Dispel Magic. If this has inspired any ideas for your game, or you have another take on today's topic, please let us know on Twitter at Dispel Magic Pod. You can find Benjamin at Sterling Vermin and Dane at Dane in Danger. Thank you to Slim Mittens for our cover art, produced by Benjamin Huffman, produced and edited by Dane Fox-McGraw.